Most homesteaders feed their animals the hard way, cutting forage, buying feed, hauling buckets, and then doing it all over again tomorrow. But there's a tree that once planted can produce high-protein feed for years, with almost no input, and almost nobody is using it properly. In this video, I'll show you what this tree actually is, why it's more nutritious than most commercial feeds, how to grow it, how to feed it, and the one limitation that can completely ruin this system if you ignore it. I'll also leave a simple step-by-step guide in the description so you can actually implement this. But before that, you need to understand why most people get this wrong. Welcome back. This video is part of the Permanent Feed Systems thread that began with our fodder system video, where that system requires daily management. The Moringa tree is the set and harvest component, a perennial plant that once established becomes a living, self-regenerating feed source on your property. Moringa Oleifera is a fast-growing, drought-tolerant tree. It belongs to a small botanical family, Moringaceae, which contains only 13 species in the single genus Moringa. Of these, Moringa Oleifera is by far the most widely cultivated and the most thoroughly researched. The tree has been cultivated and used for food, medicine, and animal feed for more than 4,000 years. Every part of the Moringa tree is useful. But for a homestead, the leaves are what matter. One characteristic that matters enormously for homestead use is how Moringa responds to cutting. Unlike many trees, which resent hard pruning, Moringa is highly suited to coppicing, cutting the main trunk or branches back to a stump, and responds by producing a dense flush of new branching and leaf growth within weeks. This regenerative response is not a survival mechanism to admire from a distance. It is the management tool that turns a Moringa tree into a productive, continuous, harvestable feed source. Let's talk numbers. Moringa leaves can reach up to 30% protein on a dry matter basis. That's higher than alfalfa, the feed most people are paying for. Moringa leaves are also significantly rich in beta-carotene, the precursor to vitamin A, as well as vitamin C, vitamin K, calcium, potassium, and iron. The beta-carotene content is directly relevant to your laying hens and milking does. Beta-carotene is the compound that gives egg yolks their deep orange color, in goat milk its characteristic richness, and it supports immune function across all livestock species. One important qualification: Moringa leaves do contain some anti-nutritional factors, specifically tannins and saponins, at levels that are documented in the research. However, the same research consistently notes that these levels are lower than in many other common woody forages, and that proper processing, shade drying, fermenting, or ensiling, reduces tannin content by a further 15 to 30%. For practical homestead use at moderate supplementation rates, these anti-nutritional factors are not a significant concern. We will cover appropriate feeding rates in the feeding section. This is the section that will determine whether Moringa is an outdoor perennial for your homestead or a managed annual, and being honest about this up front saves you from disappointment. Moringa Oleifera grows as a true perennial outdoor tree in USDA hardiness zones 9 and 10, which in the continental United States corresponds broadly to southern Florida, coastal and southern Texas, southern Arizona, the desert Southwest, and coastal southern California. Hawaii is fully suitable. These are the zones where Moringa will survive frost-free winters, grow continuously, and deliver maximum leaf production year after year without replanting. Moringa thrives as a perennial in warm, frost-free climates. If you get freezing winters, you have two options. Option 1. Grow as an annual. Plant Moringa from seed each spring after the last frost date, grow it through the season, harvest leaves from summer through fall, and either compost the plant at frost or harvest the remaining leaves before it dies back. Option 2. Container growing. Grow Moringa in a large container, a 15 to 25 gallon pot, outside in summer, and move it indoors to a bright, sunny, south-facing window or a greenhouse when temperatures drop below 50 degrees Fahrenheit in autumn. This approach preserves the root system and the investment of the first season's growth and allows the tree to develop a stronger root base over multiple years than annual replanting from seed would achieve. I'll break this down in detail in a guide I'll leave in the description. Let's walk through the practical steps for establishing and managing moringa specifically for livestock leaf production, because the management of a tree grown for leaf harvest is different from a tree grown ornamentally or for seed pods. Starting from seed, moringa seeds lose viability quickly. Plant them as soon as possible after purchasing, ideally within a few months of the harvest date. To improve germination, soak seeds in clean water for 24 to 36 hours before planting. This softens the seed coat and speeds germination. Do not freeze or refrigerate moringa seeds. Cold storage kills viability. Plant soaked seeds approximately 1 inch deep in a well-draining starting medium. In warm conditions, soil temperature above 70 degrees Fahrenheit, germination typically occurs within 7 to 14 days. Moringa grows a deep central taproot early in its development, which means it resents transplanting once established. If starting indoors, use a tall rather than wide pot, a 4-inch deep cell or a tall tube pot to accommodate the taproot. Transplant to its final location when the seedling is 12 to 18 inches tall and outdoor temperatures are consistently warm. Moringa can also be propagated from hardwood cuttings, at least 3 feet long and 1.5 inches in diameter. Cuttings establish more quickly than seedlings in warm climates and can produce harvestable leaves in 6 to 8 months from planting. This is the faster path to a productive tree if you have access to a cutting from an established moringa. Moringa prefers well-drained, sandy or loamy soil with a slightly acidic to neutral pH, 6.3 to 7.0. It does not tolerate waterlogged soil, and root rot in poorly drained ground is one of the most common causes of moringa failure. If your soil is heavy clay, amend the planting area deeply or build a raised bed before planting. Direct sunlight for at least 6 hours daily is non-negotiable for productive growth. Protecting young trees from your animals. This is important and often overlooked in moringa growing guides. Your chickens, goats, and rabbits find moringa leaves highly palatable, which is exactly why you are growing it. But a young moringa seedling or transplant is vulnerable. Protect any tree under 4 feet tall with a simple wire cage or fencing until the trunk becomes woody and the tree is well established. The coppicing technique for maximum leaf production. This is the single most important management practice for a homestead moringa tree, and it transforms the tree from an ornamental into a working feed plant. Left unmanaged, moringa grows tall quickly, 10 feet or more in a single season, with leaves concentrated high on the upper branches, out of practical reach. The coppicing or pollarding technique solves this by cutting the main trunk back to approximately 3 feet above the ground, either in early spring before the growing season or after each major harvest. This triggers a flush of new branching from the cut point, producing a dense, bushy growth habit with leaves at a harvestable height. Homestead and permaculture growers who coppice their moringa consistently describe the regrowth as dramatic. The first leaf harvest from a seedling-grown tree can take place approximately 60 days after germination, once the plant is growing vigorously. Do not harvest heavily from a young tree until it has a well-established root system. Focus early harvests on branch tips and outer leaves, leaving the central structure intact. Once the tree has a woody trunk and is well rooted, typically after the first full growing season, it can tolerate more aggressive harvesting and coppicing without stress. If you're finding this video useful, drop a comment below telling me what animal or feed system you want us to cover next. Every comment shapes what this channel builds. Now, how do you actually use this for your animals? There are 3 ways to feed moringa leaves to your livestock, and the right choice depends on your season, your species, and how much leaf volume you have available. Fresh leaves, the simplest method. Harvest branches by cutting them from the tree with clean pruning shears. Strip the leaves from the stems by hand, or simply toss whole small branches into the pen and allow your animals to browse directly. This is the method that most backyard homesteaders use, and it works well, particularly for goats and chickens, who will consume fresh moringa leaves with obvious enthusiasm. Shade-dried leaf meal. For preserving the leaf harvest, particularly in warm climates where you want to carry production through a less productive period, shade drying is the standard method. Spread harvested leaves in a thin, single layer on a flat surface in a shaded, well-ventilated area out of direct sunlight. Direct sunlight degrades the beta-carotene content and reduces overall nutritional value. In warm, dry conditions, moringa leaves dry completely within 2 to 4 days, at which point they crumble easily and can be stored in an airtight container. Dried leaf meal can be mixed into grain rations, crumbled over fresh feed, or stored for up to several months in a cool, dry environment.
Silage or fermentation. For large-scale preservation, moringa leaves can be ensiled or fermented, a process that research shows also reduces tannin content by 15 to 30%. This is more relevant to larger operations than a backyard homestead, but worth noting for completeness. Feeding rates and inclusion levels by species. For goats, fresh or dried moringa leaves can replace 20 to 50% of their standard forage ration. In practice, most homesteaders who supplement goats with moringa offer a generous double handful of fresh leaves per doe per day as a supplement alongside hay and grain, rather than calculating exact percentages. Offer it freely in season and monitor body condition. Goats that are consuming moringa as part of a balanced ration should maintain or improve their condition. For laying hens, include dried moringa leaf meal at 5 to 10% of the total diet by dry weight. Research supports low to moderate inclusion rates for poultry. Moringa leaves are suitable for poultry diets at low levels, with documented benefits including improved egg yolk color and immune function. Fresh leaves can simply be scattered in the pen for free choice browsing. Chickens will self-regulate their intake. Do not allow moringa to exceed 15% of total feed intake for laying hens, as the phytate content at higher inclusion rates can reduce calcium and zinc absorption. For Cornix quail, scatter fresh young leaves or crumbled dried leaf meal as a free choice supplement daily. The small size of quail means a modest amount of moringa. A small pinch of dried meal mixed into their daily grain ration is sufficient. For ducks, fresh leaves offered as browse work well. Ducks are opportunistic foragers and will consume moringa leaves with the same enthusiasm they bring to any fresh green material. For rabbits, moringa leaves are an excellent supplemental green. Fresh or dried leaves can be offered daily alongside hay. The amino acid profile and protein content of moringa leaves complement the hay-based diet well, particularly for growing kits or lactating does.
Every video on this channel gives you the honest limitations, not to discourage you, but because a tool you understand completely is a tool you can actually use. Moringa is a warm climate plant. In Zone 6 and below, you are working against its biology. It can be done, but it requires container management, indoor overwintering, and the understanding that your harvest window is seasonal rather than perennial. Be realistic about what the plant can deliver in your climate before building your feeding system around it. Moringa is a supplement, not a complete feed. No single plant covers all of an animal's nutritional needs, and moringa is no exception. It is extraordinarily rich in protein, beta-carotene, and several minerals, but it is not a source of the energy, the carbohydrates, or the long stem fiber that ruminants, like goats, need from hay. Think of moringa as you would a high-quality vitamin supplement added to an already balanced diet, not as a replacement for that diet. Young trees need protection from the very animals you are growing it for. A goat or a flock of chickens can strip and kill a young moringa tree in minutes. Fence off your trees until they are well established, with a woody trunk at least an inch in diameter. Once the tree is mature and you are managing it by coppicing, the regrowth is vigorous enough to absorb harvest pressure. Young trees are not. Palatability can vary. Most livestock eat moringa leaves readily and eagerly. Some individual animals, particularly those who have never encountered it before, may be hesitant at first. If your goats initially ignore fresh moringa leaves, mix small amounts with their regular feed for a week or two to introduce the flavor. The research consistently shows that acceptance improves with familiarity. The moringa tree is not a miracle, but it is genuinely remarkable.
a plant that has fed people and animals across the warmest parts of the world for 4,000 years. If you want to get started, I've put together a free guide to help you grow and use it properly in the description. Subscribe so you don't miss future videos, and drop a comment below telling me, are you in a zone where Moringa can grow as a perennial, or will you be trying the container or annual approach? Thank you for being here. The work you put into understanding your land, your animals, and your feed systems is what separates a homestead that thrives from one that just survives. This is Small Purpose Farming, and I'll see you in the next video.